The recruitment center stood as a monument to humanity's desperate hope. Massive holographic displays flickered with recruitment videos, showcasing pristine starships and heroic soldiers defending distant colonies. Outside, a line of potential recruits stretched for blocks, each person carrying their own story of survival, ambition, or escape. Emily Parker watched the scene with detached curiosity. Her family's centuries-old secret coursed through her veins, quite literally. Vampires had long since learned that survival meant blending in, adapting, becoming so mundane that no one would suspect anything extraordinary. The Terran Expeditionary Force represented her latest opportunity to disappear into the fabric of human society. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "We are not predators," Alina Parker had told her. "We are survivors." The old woman's stories painted a complex picture of their lineage. Vampires who had chosen protection over predation, who had silently guarded humanity through countless conflicts. Each generation found new ways to integrate, to become invisible. The recruitment center's interior was a carefully designed psychological machine. Bright lights, motivational posters, and the constant hum of administrative activity created an atmosphere of purpose and excitement. Young recruits moved with a mix of nervousness and determination, their eyes reflecting dreams of adventure, heroism, and escape from overcrowded Earth settlements. Emily's preparation had been meticulous. Years of careful training allowed her to suppress her supernatural abilities just enough to appear human. Her medical records were flawless, created by family connections that ran deeper than most could imagine. Blood tests were carefully manipulated. Physical examinations precisely managed to show nothing more than an exceptionally healthy young woman. A recruitment officer called her name. "Parker, Emily." The voice cut through the background noise, and she moved with deliberate, controlled grace. No superhuman speed, no unnatural fluidity. Just a fit, athletic young woman walking with purpose. The examination room was sterile and clinical. Standard-issue medical equipment lined the walls, and a tired-looking doctor gestured for her to sit. Emily knew every test was a potential exposure point. Her metabolism, her healing capabilities, her cellular structure, all could betray her if she wasn't careful. "Standard physical assessment," the doctor mumbled, clearly having conducted hundreds of these examinations. "Blood pressure cuff, basic blood draw, reflex tests." Each moment was a careful negotiation between revealing her true nature and maintaining her carefully constructed human facade. Her enhanced senses picked up every minute detail. The slight tremor in the doctor's hands, the microscopic variations in his heartbeat, the chemical composition of the antiseptic in the room. But to the outside world, she was just another recruit, slightly above average, but certainly within human parameters. The genetic screening was the most critical moment. Generations of her family had developed techniques to mask their unique genetic markers. A complex cocktail of carefully developed suppressants, genetic camouflage techniques, and generational breeding had made their detection nearly impossible. Where most vampiric lines would have been exposed, her family had become masters of adaptation. "Your test results look exceptional," the doctor said, not looking up from his digital tablet. "Peak physical condition, no significant medical concerns. You're cleared for initial training." Emily allowed herself a subtle smile. Another layer of camouflage secured. The recruitment center's final processing area was a hub of controlled chaos. Recruits received initial assignments, equipment packets, and last-minute medical clearances. Holographic displays tracked global recruitment numbers, showing humanity's desperate attempt to bolster its interstellar defense forces. She knew the real war was coming. Not just the conflict with potential alien threats, but the constant war of survival her people had waged for centuries. Blending in, protecting, watching. The Terran Expeditionary Force was just her latest hunting ground, though her prey would be something far different from the traditional vampire narratives. As Emily Parker collected her initial deployment papers, she felt the weight of generations behind her. A silent guardian, preparing to step into a conflict that would define humanity's future. The colony of New Guadeloupe had been humanity's pride, a testament to interstellar expansion and technological resilience. Nestled in the outer rim of explored space, it represented the frontier of human settlement, a vibrant mining world that promised wealth and opportunity. No one saw the invasion coming. Emily Parker's unit had been on routine patrol when the first reports came in. Quantum communication networks erupted with panic, fragmentary messages painting a horrifying picture, strange energy signatures, massive biomechanical structures emerging from subspace, entire settlement clusters going dark in moments. All units prepare for emergency deployment. The command came sharp and clear through their neural communication links. Emily felt the familiar surge of adrenaline, not just human fight or flight, but something deeper, more primal. Her vampiric heritage gave her an edge that no standard military training could replicate. The first wave of Krelltak assault craft descended like a technological nightmare. They weren't ships in any traditional sense. They were living machines, organic mechanical hybrids that seemed to breathe and pulse with an alien intelligence. Plasma weapons that defied human understanding carved through defensive positions like they were made of paper. Her squad leader, Sergeant Michael Rodriguez, was a veteran of border conflicts, but nothing in his extensive combat experience could have prepared him for this. "Parker," he shouted over the communication link, "take point on the western defensive line." Emily moved with calculated precision. Her enhanced senses perceived the battlefield in ways her human compatriots could not. She could hear the microscopic shifts in atmospheric pressure, detect the subtle electromagnetic signatures of incoming weapon systems, feel the vibrations of approaching biomechanical units through the ground itself. The colony's defensive systems were collapsing. Automated turret networks went dark one by one, their advanced targeting systems overwhelmed by the Krelltak's impossible technological capabilities. Human soldiers who moments ago were confident defenders now found themselves fighting for survival. "They're not following any standard invasion protocol," Emily heard one of the communication specialists muttering. "This isn't conquest. This is extermination." The Krelltak's weapons were beyond brutal. Where human technology created clean, precise weapons of war, these alien systems were designed for maximum biological destruction. Plasma streams that didn't just kill but completely atomized organic matter. Electromagnetic pulses that scrambled neural networks and technological systems simultaneously. Emily's unit found themselves trapped in a killing zone. Standard military doctrine suggested retreat, but retreat meant abandoning thousands of civilian colonists. Something in her, part human determination, part vampiric predatory instinct, refused to accept defeat. "We're switching tactics," she said quietly to Sergeant Rodriguez. Her voice carried a calm that seemed impossible given the carnage around them. The sergeant looked at her, a mix of desperation and curiosity in his eyes. Years of military service had taught him to recognize something special, even if he couldn't quite define it. Emily's plan was unconventional. While other units were trying to maintain defensive positions, she proposed a series of surgical strikes against the Krelltak's communication nodes. If they could disrupt the alien network, even momentarily, it might create the breathing room humanity needed. "It's suicide," Rodriguez muttered. "No," Emily responded, "it's survival." The next few moments would define not just the battle, but potentially humanity's entire first contact with the Krelltak. Emily Parker stood at the precipice of a conflict that would reshape human understanding of warfare, survival, and their place in the universe. Around her, New Guadeloupe burned, but in that burning, something unexpected was about to be born. The night descended on New Guadeloupe like a shroud of darkness, but for Emily Parker, darkness was an ally. The Krelltak shock troops moved with mechanical precision, their biomechanical forms towering over the human defensive positions. Each step they took sent tremors through the ground, a promise of imminent destruction. Sergeant Rodriguez's voice crackled through the communication link. "We're outgunned. We're outmaneuvered. We need a miracle." Emily knew miracles weren't born from hope. They were crafted from survival instinct and capabilities beyond normal understanding. Her vampiric heritage had prepared her for battles far more complex than traditional warfare. Generations of evolutionary adaptation had created a being that existed perfectly between human vulnerability and supernatural resilience. Where normal soldiers saw insurmountable odds, she saw opportunities. The first wave of Krell-Tech shock troops approached with terrifying efficiency. Plasma weapons charged with energy that could vaporize human flesh in milliseconds. Targeting systems so advanced they could predict movement patterns before a soldier could even think of changing direction. But Emily saw differently. Her enhanced senses perceived the battlefield in spectrums invisible to human perception. She could hear the microscopic energy fluctuations in the Krell-Tech weapons. She could feel the electromagnetic signatures of their targeting systems. Most importantly, she could move in ways that defied human limitation. When the first plasma bolt launched, Emily was already moving, not with superhuman speed that would betray her true nature, but with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. Her body twisted, muscles coiling like compressed springs, creating movement patterns that confused even the most advanced alien targeting systems. "What the hell?" Rodriguez muttered, watching her navigate through a storm of plasma fire that should have been impossible to survive. The other soldiers in her unit began to notice something strange. Wounds that should have been fatal seemed to close almost instantly. Movements that defied conventional human reflexes. A soldier who seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Emily knew the risks of exposure. Each extraordinary action needed to be carefully measured, each supernatural capability disguised as exceptional training or pure luck. She was a predator playing prey, a supernatural being hiding in plain sight. The Krell-Tech shock troops began to adapt. Their biomechanical systems recalibrated, attempting to understand this anomalous human soldier who refused to follow expected combat patterns. But adaptation took time, and time was a luxury Emily's unit didn't have. Her plan was intricate. By creating unpredictable movement patterns, she drew Krell-Tech fire away from her fellow soldiers. Each plasma bolt she avoided was a bolt that didn't kill her compatriots. Each strange movement was a distraction that gave human defenders precious seconds to reposition. "Parker," Rodriguez shouted, "whatever you're doing, keep doing it." The battle became a dance. Emily moved through the alien formations like water, her regenerative abilities allowing her to take risks no normal soldier could contemplate. A plasma bolt that would have killed a human soldier merely burned her skin that began healing even before the wound was complete. Her vampiric senses detected something else. The Krell-Tech weren't just an invasion force. They were hunters, designed to eliminate potential threats with surgical precision. And in Emily, they had encountered a threat they couldn't easily categorize. As the night wore on, the human defensive line began to stabilize, not through overwhelming firepower, but through the inexplicable actions of one soldier who seemed to defy the laws of combat. Emily Parker was writing a new chapter in warfare, a chapter where survival wasn't just about strength, but about adaptation, cunning, and the ability to turn one's greatest vulnerabilities into unexpected advantages. The Krell-Tech would learn. But for now, they could only watch in confusion as this impossible human soldier continued to survive. Intelligence reports flickered across the command center's holographic displays. A critical Krell-Tech command vessel hung in the upper atmosphere of New Guadeloupe, its massive biomechanical structure defying every known principle of spacecraft design. Most strategists saw an impenetrable fortress. Emily Parker saw an opportunity. The mission briefing was a study in desperation. Colonel James Henderson's weathered face told a story of mounting losses. "We have a 0.03% chance of successful infiltration," he explained, his voice a mixture of professional detachment and underlying fear. "The ship's defensive systems are unlike anything we've encountered. Quantum adaptive shielding, molecular reconfiguration capabilities. Essentially, it's a living weapon." Emily listened with heightened senses, perceiving details beyond the standard human spectrum. The electromagnetic signatures, the subtle molecular vibrations, the microscopic weak points that no standard scanning technology could detect. Sergeant Rodriguez approached her after the briefing. "Parker, you're the only one who's survived multiple close encounters with these things. Any insights?" She chose her words carefully. The Krelltak aren't just technological. They're organic, and organic systems always have vulnerabilities. The infiltration plan was madness by any standard military doctrine. A small team would attempt to breach the ship's outer membrane, a living, adapting surface that could reconfigure itself faster than human weapons could damage it. Emily would be the point of insertion, her unique abilities making her the most likely to survive the initial breach. Preparation was meticulous. Standard combat gear was modified with experimental adaptive camouflage. Emily's own supernatural healing would be her primary survival mechanism. Each piece of equipment was carefully chosen to minimize her exposure, to keep her true nature hidden. As their assault craft approached the massive Krelltak vessel, the ship seemed to breathe. Organic tendrils shifted, molecular structures realigned, creating a defense system that was more living organism than technological construct. Conventional weapons would be useless. Conventional soldiers would be eliminated within moments. Insertion point identified. The navigation system announced. A microscopic weakness in the ship's outer membrane, a point where organic and mechanical systems intersected. Emily knew this was the moment of truth. Her vampiric abilities went beyond physical strength or healing. Generations of evolutionary adaptation had created a being with sensory capabilities that bordered on precognition. She could feel the ship's molecular rhythm, understand its defensive patterns in ways no human technology could comprehend. The first breach was surgical. Where a normal soldier would require explosives or advanced cutting tools, Emily found the precise molecular frequency that would allow her to pass through the ship's living membrane. Her body moved with a fluidity that defied human understanding, not superhuman speed, but a calculated precision that made her almost invisible. Inside the vessel, the environment was alive. Biomechanical corridors pulsed with energy, neural networks that functioned more like organic nervous systems than computer circuits. Emily moved like a predator, each step calculated, each breath controlled. Her mission was simple yet impossible: locate and disable the ship's central communication node. But simple was a relative term when dealing with a living weapon that could reconfigure itself faster than human thought. Sergeant Rodriguez's voice came through her communication link. "Parker, your reading is a ghost on our scanners. Be careful." She knew the risks. One moment of supernatural exposure could compromise everything. Her family's generations of careful integration, her own carefully constructed human identity. All could be destroyed in a single moment of carelessness. The central communication node appeared, a massive organic mechanical hybrid that seemed to breathe, to think, to adapt. Most soldiers would see an impenetrable system. Emily saw a complex puzzle waiting to be solved. Her hand reached out, not with force, but with a precise understanding of molecular frequencies that no human technology could replicate. The mission to save humanity had begun. The aftermath of the infiltration mission looked like a battlefield designed by a madman. Krelltak biomechanical systems lay in twisted, smoking ruin. Standard-issue human weapons were scattered like broken toys, their advanced technology rendered useless against the alien threat. Major Thomas Walker had seen countless combat zones. 30 years of military service had hardened him against surprise, against the impossible. But nothing could have prepared him for what he witnessed that day. Emily Parker stood at the center of the destruction, her body telling a story that defied human understanding. Plasma burns that should have been fatal were already healing, skin knitting back together with impossible speed. Her movements suggested something beyond exceptional training, a fluidity that spoke of predatory precision. Most soldiers would have been dead a dozen times over. Walker approached carefully, his decades of experience telling him something extraordinary was unfolding. "Report, Sergeant Parker," he called out, his voice steady despite the impossible scene before him. Emily's response was measured. every word calculated to maintain her carefully constructed human facade. Mission accomplished, sir. Communication node neutralized. But they both knew something more significant had happened. The mission logs told a story that military analysts would spend years trying to understand. A single soldier had managed to infiltrate and disable a Krell-TAC command vessel that should have been impenetrable. Conventional tactics suggested it was impossible. The after-action report would read like science fiction. Walker pulled up the mission footage. Enhanced sensors captured moments that human eyes would have missed. Emily moving through plasma fire that should have vaporized flesh. Wounds closing at speeds that defied medical science. Reflexes that suggested something far beyond human capability. "What are you?" Walker muttered, more to himself than to her. The other soldiers in the unit noticed too. Whispers spread like wildfire. Strange comments about Parker's survival, her impossible actions. How she seemed to always be exactly where she needed to be. How injuries that should have been fatal seemed to mean nothing to her. Emily knew this moment was critical. Discovery could mean exposure, could threaten the careful integration her family had maintained for generations. One wrong move could unravel everything. Walker's background was legendary, a strategist who had survived some of humanity's most challenging conflicts. If anyone could understand the value of an unexpected advantage, it would be him. "You're not going to report this," Emily said quietly. It wasn't a question. The Major's laugh was brief and harsh. "Report what?" "That we have a soldier who might be our best weapon against an alien threat that's destroying human colonies." His analysis was clinical, strategic. He saw beyond the supernatural, focusing on the tactical advantage. Emily represented something more than a biological anomaly. She was a potential game-changer in a war humanity was losing. "How long have you been different?" Walker asked. Emily chose her words carefully. Long enough to know how to survive. Long enough to protect humanity in ways most couldn't understand. The conversation happened in the shadow of destruction. Krell-TAC biomechanical systems still smoldered, a testament to the impossible mission that had just been completed. Around them, other soldiers moved with a mixture of exhaustion and awe. Walker made his decision in that moment. Some secrets were worth protecting. Some advantages were too valuable to expose. "The official report will show standard combat procedures," he said firmly. Nothing more. Emily knew this was more than a cover-up. This was an alliance. A recognition that in humanity's darkest hour, traditional definitions of strength needed to be reconsidered. The war was far from over. But for the first time, humanity had found an unexpected weapon. Deep beneath the surface of a classified research facility, Emily Parker found herself under the most intense scrutiny she had ever experienced. The military's most advanced diagnostic equipment surrounded her, systems designed to penetrate every biological mystery, to uncover every hidden capability. General Catherine Roberts was not a woman easily impressed. Her career had been built on skepticism and a ruthless approach to military innovation. But the reports from New Guadeloupe had shaken even her considerable composure. "We're facing extinction," she said bluntly during the first classified briefing. "And you might be our last hope." The research team was a carefully selected group. Geneticists, combat specialists, xenobiologists, each brought in under the strictest security protocols. They approached Emily like a complex puzzle, their scientific curiosity barely contained behind professional facades. Dr. Michael Chen, the lead geneticist, couldn't hide his fascination. "Your cellular regeneration is unlike anything we've ever seen," he muttered, reviewing holographic displays of her biological scans. "It's not just rapid healing, it's complete molecular reconstruction." Emily remained still, knowing that every moment was a careful negotiation. Reveal too much, and she risked exposing her entire lineage. Reveal too little, and she would lose the trust of the military leadership that might be humanity's best chance of survival. The classified reports told a story of impossible survival. Missions where Emily Parker survived scenarios that would have killed entire squadrons. Infiltration capabilities that defied current technological understanding. a soldier who could move through enemy lines like a ghost, leaving destruction in her wake. Major Walker's initial report had been carefully crafted. Enough truth to be believable, enough omission to protect her secret. But the military machine was relentless in its pursuit of advantage. "We're not just looking at a soldier," General Roberts explained during a closed-door strategy session. "We're looking at a potential weapons system that could redefine interstellar warfare." The implications were staggering. Emily represented more than an individual soldier. She was a prototype, a living example of humanity's capacity for unexpected adaptation. Her vampiric lineage, carefully hidden for generations, was now becoming a critical asset in humanity's fight for survival. Classified genetic research began in earnest. The military wanted to understand the source of her capabilities. Blood samples, genetic markers, cellular analysis. Each test was a potential exposure point. Emily walked a razor's edge between cooperation and protection. Dr. Chen discovered something extraordinary. Emily's genetic structure showed markers of an evolutionary path that seemed almost designed for survival. Enhanced sensory capabilities, accelerated healing, a metabolic system that could adapt to extreme conditions. "This isn't just genetic modification," Chen told General Roberts. "This is something else entirely. A separate evolutionary track that's been developing alongside human civilization." The strategy meetings became intense negotiations. How to use Emily's capabilities without exposing her true nature. How to create a fighting force that could leverage her unique abilities without compromising her secret. "We need a new approach to special operations," Major Walker argued. "Traditional combat doctrine is useless against the Krelltak. We need soldiers who can think beyond conventional limitations." Emily listened, knowing that each decision would reshape not just her future, but the future of her entire hidden lineage. Generations of careful integration were now being tested in humanity's most critical hour. The military's plan began to take shape, a specialized unit, carefully selected soldiers who could work alongside Emily, who could provide cover, who could help maintain her carefully constructed human identity. "We're creating something unprecedented," General Roberts said, her voice a mixture of scientific excitement and military pragmatism. "A new kind of soldier. A new kind of hope." As the facility hummed with activity, Emily understood the true weight of her situation. She was no longer just a soldier. She was a bridge between what humanity was and what it might become. The war was far from over, but for the first time, humanity had found an unexpected advantage. The assault on the Krelltak home system began like a symphony of calculated chaos. Humanity's most advanced strike force assembled, a collection of specially trained soldiers, experimental technologies, and one very carefully positioned vampiric operative. Emily Parker stood at the center of a meticulously planned operation that would define the future of human survival. Years of careful preparation, of hidden genetic potential, of strategic manipulation had led to this moment. The fleet moved with a precision that defied traditional military doctrine. Where previous encounters had been desperate defensive actions, this was a calculated strike deep into enemy territory. Intelligence gathered from Emily's previous missions had revealed critical vulnerabilities in the Krelltak's neural network, weaknesses that no conventional scanning technology could have detected. Major Thomas Walker's voice crackled through the communication systems. "All units, this is not a standard engagement. We are going to rewrite the rules of warfare." Emily's unit was a carefully constructed anomaly. Soldiers selected not just for their combat skills, but for their ability to work alongside someone with extraordinary capabilities. They knew something was different about Parker, but the specifics remained deliberately obscured. The first wave of the assault targeted the Krelltak's communication infrastructure. Where previous attempts had failed, this strike was different. Emily's enhanced sensory capabilities allowed for precision that defied technological limitations. She could perceive molecular vibrations, electromagnetic signatures, and subtle system interactions that human technology couldn't even register. Plasma storms erupted around their assault craft. The Krelltak's defensive systems came alive. a living network of biomechanical responses that had decimated human fleets in previous encounters. But this time, something was different. Target acquired. Emily's voice remained calm. Preparing molecular disruption sequence. Her abilities went beyond physical combat. Years of careful genetic development had created a being that could interact with technological systems in ways that blurred the line between biological and mechanical. Where other soldiers saw impenetrable defenses, she saw complex systems waiting to be manipulated. The specialized strike team moved with a fluidity that suggested something beyond standard military training. Emily's presence changed everything. Her movements became a kind of living strategy, drawing enemy fire, creating openings, revealing vulnerabilities that no conventional reconnaissance could detect. General Catherine Roberts watched from the command center, her decades of military experience struggling to comprehend what was unfolding. "She's not just fighting," Roberts muttered to herself. "She's communicating with the system itself." Each moment of the assault was a carefully choreographed dance. Emily's vampiric abilities, her enhanced senses, her regenerative capabilities, her molecular understanding, became a weapon more sophisticated than any technological system humanity had ever developed. The Krell-Tak's defensive networks began to collapse, not through overwhelming firepower, but through a precise, almost surgical dismantling of their core systems. Emily moved through their technological infrastructure like a predator, understanding systems at a level far beyond traditional human comprehension. "We're not just attacking," Major Walker explained to his command team. "We're fundamentally rewriting their operational parameters." Entire sections of the Krell-Tak home system began to go dark. Their supposedly impenetrable defensive networks crumbled from within. It wasn't destruction in the traditional sense. It was a form of technological dissolution that suggested something far more complex was happening. Emily understood the true nature of the assault. This wasn't just about defeating an enemy. This was about proving humanity's capacity for adaptation, for survival, for finding strength in the most unexpected places. As the final defensive systems collapsed, a new understanding emerged. The Krell-Tak had made a fatal mistake. They had looked at humanity and seen only what was visible on the surface, never understanding the depths of adaptation that lurked just beneath. The assault was more than a military victory. It was a statement. Humanity would survive. Humanity would adapt. And sometimes, survival came from the most unexpected sources. The war rooms of Earth's military command were unusually silent. Holographic displays showed the systematic collapse of the Krell-Tak invasion force, a victory that defied every previous projection. Emily Parker stood at the periphery, watching as human leaders tried to comprehend the impossible. General Catherine Roberts reviewed the after-action reports. Decades of military service had taught her to be skeptical, but the evidence was undeniable. A single specialized unit, led by an operative with capabilities that bordered on the supernatural, had done what entire fleets could not. "This changes everything," she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. The classified debriefings were intense. Geneticists, combat strategists, cynobiologists, all converged to understand the unprecedented victory. Emily became both a subject of study and a closely guarded secret. Major Thomas Walker managed the narrative carefully. The official records would show exceptional training, experimental technologies, strategic innovation. The truth was far more complex. Emily's family history emerged in fragments. Generations of vampiric lineage, carefully integrated into human society, had been preparing for a moment like this. Protectors who had watched silently, waiting for a threat that would require their true capabilities. The military's approach was calculated. They understood that Emily represented more than an individual soldier. She was a prototype, a living testament to humanity's capacity for unexpected adaptation. Special protocols were developed, a new kind of military unit, drawing from Emily's genetic legacy. Not replication, that would be impossible, but understanding. Learning how survival could take forms beyond traditional comprehension. Public narratives were carefully constructed. Heroes were created, stories of human resilience celebrated. But the true story remained hidden in the most secure archives, accessible to only the highest levels of military leadership. Emily found herself in a strange limbo. A weapon, a protector, something between a soldier and a secret. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. "We don't fight to be recognized," Alina Parker had told her. "We fight to protect." The aftermath of the war brought unexpected challenges. Human civilization had been fundamentally transformed. The Krell-Tak invasion had stripped away comfortable illusions about humanity's place in the universe. They were not alone. They were not invincible. And they were far more complex than anyone had imagined. Military research continued in the deepest, most secure facilities. Emily became both a subject of study and a strategic asset. Her genetic markers, her abilities, her very existence represented a new frontier of human potential. "We're looking at the next stage of human evolution," Dr. Michael Chen explained during a classified briefing. "Not through technological augmentation, but through adaptive capabilities we're only beginning to understand." The global landscape changed. Humanity's approach to interstellar exploration shifted. No longer would they venture into the unknown with naive optimism. They had learned a crucial lesson. Survival meant adaptation, meant understanding that strength came in unexpected forms. Emily's unit became legendary within the most secret military circles. Soldiers who had witnessed her capabilities spoke in hushed, reverent tones, not as a myth, but as a testament to something greater. Major Walker made sure her legacy was protected. Careful documentation, strategic placement, a guardian positioned exactly where she would be most effective. The Krell-Tak invasion became a turning point. Humanity had faced extinction and discovered something profound about itself. Their greatest strength was not in technology, not in overwhelming force, but in the capacity to adapt, to find advantage in the most unexpected places. As years passed, Emily's story became something between a classified document and a whispered legend, a reminder that humanity's true potential lay not in what was immediately visible, but in the depths of adaptation and survival. The war was over, but the real story was just beginning.